On this episode of AV Week, the iPhone 7 was announced and no more headphone jack. Andy Murray loses his US Open match due to a DSP, and InfoComm is making their classes available at college campuses. All that and more, next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
AV Week is brought to you by our fine group of underwriters, companies like Vadio. This is AV Week, episode 263, recorded Friday, September 9th, 2016. Two Bobs.
Ready.
AV Week.
Performing scan.
Week.
Online.
This is AV Week. AV Week. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us this week, my buddy, my pal, one of the guys that tells me what to do. His name is Brock McGinnis from Westbury National. How are you, sir?
I am fine. It's a great day in Toronto, Canada.
Go Blue Jays.
Go Blue Jays.
I almost said go Leafs, but it's not quite hockey season yet. Although they're playing.
And the Blue Jays are well worth cheering for.
Well, I'll trade you. Cardinals are not this year. So
yeah.
Also with us is Ren Taylor from Daylight. Hello, sir.
Hello, Tim. Nice to be here today.
All right, thank you. This week we got a couple of we're a little bit slightly resi, and I'm going to explain slightly resi. We're going to talk about the iPhone, the new iPhone, DSPs, as well as InfoComm having some college classes. First up, so the new iPhone is out, or at least released. It hasn't been. You can't physically purchase it yet, but the big show happened with Tim Cook saying, here's our brand new iPhone. It's great. It's wonderful. It's awesome. It's groovy. It's the iPhone 7. It's bigger, faster, stronger. Okay. The one, oh my gosh, it is religious zealotism that came out of this. This was the fact that Apple has removed the headphone connection. It is the end of the world as we know it. Holy cow. And there are people, there is a stark dividing line here. People either think it is the smartest thing ever. I believe they use the word courageous, which I think is probably a little bit much. Or it is the death of Apple themselves. So here's the thing. The headphone connection, the 3.5 millimeter little dude you've got. I mean, let me show you my little Samsung, which still has that thing, right? That little dude right there. That's the headphone connection. The iPhone 7 will not have one. We've been using this thing for 100 years. It is, in itself, is an analog connection. I'm just trying to explain it for the folks who are, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. Now, I still use it from time to time. My primary is, though, Bluetooth, right? It's still, that's kind of what I migrated to. When I walk in the morning, I use a Bluetooth headphone set. When I'm on the plane, I typically use another pair of headphones that also Bluetooth. So, Brock, moving forward, and let's be honest here, iPhones and iDevices, as well as other mobile devices, are something that we have to worry about connecting to our systems for both video and audio. How are we going to integrate these systems, these devices, that don't have our wonderful, magical 3.5 millimeter connector?
Real simple, Tim, and the electronics industry has been anticipating this for quite some time. People like Denon and Marantz have preamplifiers with Bluetooth integrated into them for exactly this reason. Most of the major audio console manufacturers are now introducing, and I would consider them prosumer grade because I'm not a big fan of the bandwidth and audio quality that comes through Bluetooth, but the manufacturers have Bluetooth built into little plug and play mixing consoles. So I'm not at all worried going forward. Apple has been kind enough to provide us with a dongle. That dongle is supposed to be shipping with at no additional charge with the already, well-priced iPhone 7. And so nobody's going to be stuck in the lurch with no way to listen to music as they jaywalk across busy city streets in Toronto.
Well, hang on real quickly. You mentioned the fact that you don't think that Bluetooth audio is good, right? It's not as high quality as maybe something else, but it is what folks are using. I mean, right? It's
absolutely.
It goes back to the argument between CDs and albums, or
right.
MP3s and albums, rather.
Right. Or cassettes.
Or cassettes. Yes.
I don't, and Ren, feel free to jump in at any time here, but I don't think this is a big deal. People are accustomed to listening on Bluetooth. They're going to listen on Bluetooth. Their speakers are Bluetooth, and their headphones are Bluetooth. We use them in our cell phones all the time. I've got a Bluetooth connection in my car between my phone and the microphone and loudspeakers in the car. So this is not a big deal. But it's a red herring, I think, Tim, to believe that Apple's objective is to get rid of the 3.5-inch jack to be able to convert people to other headphone devices.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure, because it seems like their mission here is to free up space inside the phone, right?
No, I don't think so. I think their mission is to get rid of all the third-party devices that are using that 3.5-inch plug, the payment systems, the thermometers, the card scanners that are used at trade shows by so many people. That's what that jack was being used for, certainly in the business world. And those people were not paying Mr. Cook a royalty. And if they put a lightning connector on their scanner device now in order to properly interface and are going through that digital bus rather than bypassing the digital bus and going to the through the headphone connector, Mr. Cook gets royalty and he gets to grow his business.
Yeah, I can see how Apple will allow that integration of their business model to have more devices and more peripherals filtered towards them. I still think we'll probably end up in a pretty transitional period for a while where people are getting used to this. I'm a wired headphone person myself. I've never really felt the need to buy a headphone that's more than about $30 or $40. I can't really hear the difference, unfortunately. So until a Bluetooth headset has a pretty good, reliable battery life to it, which we're improving month after month, year after year, then I would get on board with that. But I think there is this transition period, and I know Belkin has come out with what is a transition piece, which is another dongle that would allow you to plug in a lightning adapter for the headphone and also a lightning adapter for the charging as well. So I think you might see that for a little bit, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing, Ren, if you do much traveling on planes, I would suggest, this is not a commercial for Sennheiser, but my favorite traveling headphones are Sennheiser Momentums. They're not cheap, but they are the sound quality in them is very good, and they do have a noise canceling feature to them as well. So, and the battery life is pretty good. I mean, you're talking. I mean, last time we were in Amsterdam, I flew over, and that was a 5 or 6 hour flight from Chicago, and they lasted the entire time. So,
yeah, great tip.
Yeah. All right, let's talk some more audio and a little bit. It was an interesting story. A buddy of ours from one of our guys at AVNation shot me this. It comes to us from ESPN. So let's start with that. Apparently, Andy Murray lost his match at the U.S. Open after, and this is something that he said, after a quote-unquote loud gong went off in the speaker system. If you read down more of the story, Murray apparently talked to another player where the gong went off 3 or 4 times during the match. Now, this was, the whole story is there was apparently a DSP that went bad in this system. According to the facilities managers and the people that ran the facility, they had to take the system down, install a new DSP, and restart the system, all of which would take about a half an hour. The system, from what I understand, is a PV media matrix and a lab grouping. Don't do that. So here's my question, and Brock, I want to start with you for a couple of reasons. First of all, you are not a stranger to sports facility installations.
Correct.
Right. Let's take the Maple Leaf Center, right? Brock's in Toronto. You
Yes.
cannot take down a speaker system in double sudden death overtime, Game 7 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, the last time the Leafs were in it. You can't do that.
Correct.
How do you prevent something like this?
Well, there are two reasons you can't do that. One is that it would impact in-game experience for the fans. They wouldn't be able to hear the announcer screaming with excitement when the Leafs score that winning goal. But the biggest reason is that you got 20,000 people in a building, and in the event of an incident, they need to be evacuated. And in virtually all of the large professional sports venues, the PA system is an integral part of the life safety system and the patron evacuation plan. So the DSP can't go down. And in the case of the Air Canada Centre, there is a failover rack. We have the same sort of scenario at the Rogers Centre, where the Blue Jays play in Toronto. There is a failover rack. And I apologize to the nice folks at PV for having made a face. I don't know if that was visible or not when I heard the term media matrix. I don't know, Tim, if this was current generation Nion product or it was legacy media matrix, what we used to call that product line back in the day. But if it was legacy product, it is well past its best before date. They were probably due for an upgrade. We take care of what is now called the Aviva Tennis Center in Toronto, where we have the kind of Canadian equivalent on tour of the U.S. Open. I'm not sure how Flushing Meadows has been set up, but we have a permanent loudspeaker system installed in that facility that is primarily for community events. And then when the pros roll in once a year, we roll in racks of additional amplifiers and additional DSP, and it is meticulously tested each year prior. And because it's an event system, all of the electronics are backed up by like electronics for an immediate switchover. And so I can't speak to what's happening with the internal tech team at Flushing Meadows or the contract people that are coming in. We all know that electronics will fail from time to time, and they only fail when they're the most needed. And so, the story here is not that Mr. Murray was looking for an excuse for having lost his match. He also complained on the weekend about how it was too loud inside when the roof was closed, and it was impacting his concentration. So he was already, in a bit of a funk about the conditions inside. It's about how long that failover change would take, and that failover change should have happened like that. And the players could have taken an additional break, whatever it is they get, 5 to 10 minutes. I'm not enough of a tennis fan to know what the clock is when they take their breaks, but that should have been able to happen very, very quickly. All of the programming is preloaded. It's simply inputs are simply being switched over from one rack to the next. And the only thing I can think of is that the sound system there is as old as the last renovation on the venue, and the operators, the tennis association, has not spent enough money keeping that system tested and current and able to handle every eventuality. Pro audio equipment, audiovisual equipment is not like a toilet. You don't install it once and only address it when it gets blocked. These systems need to be looked at and tested and upgraded, firmware upgraded on a regular basis.
Ren, from a manufacturer standpoint, how do you guys support people like Brock when they're going into, let's be honest, these are high-profile systems, right? I mean, obviously, this is a high-profile event. It's part of the Grand Slam Tour. It's a high-profile deal. So how do you guys, support people like Brock and other integrators when they're going into a high-profile venue, when your product is going into a system that simply can't fail?
Well, I think this is especially relevant for like electrically operated projection screens that Daylight makes, for example, where we have to show a history of reliability and a history of good usage with certain product lines. Otherwise, there is, even if it's just minimal risk level, there's a risk level out there mentally that, it might be difficult to use this or to retract a screen or to move a screen up or down during an event because something might happen. That's like the worst thing ever, especially if you're depending on the projection screen to be your visual focal point for the entire audience. I was just at the Rogers Center back in July for the Mariners Blue Jays series. I'm a lifelong Mariners fan. I'm even wearing my Mariners polo today. And for an older stadium, and I've been around to a lot of parks in Major League Baseball, the sound system is pretty excellent for that stadium. So I would say an example like this, like we're seeing at the US Open, just pinpoints that fragility of the AV system. And as Brock eloquently stated there, you have to have redundancy. If you don't have redundancy or you don't have faith in the system, you're going to end up with a disaster like this, which frankly on the AV side, this is a disaster.
Well, and honestly, and the thing that really caught me was it was an ESPN story. So
right, exactly.
it's a disaster on all kinds of levels.
But if I can just jump in and follow through on something Ren just said. So we put that sound system in the Rogers Center when it was known as Skydome in 1998.
Holy cow.
Those loudspeakers are the same loudspeakers that we installed in 98. The amplification, the digital signal processing, all of the switching have all been changed, I believe now twice in the interim. We've gone from copper to fiber. It is a fully redundant system. It is the certified life safety system. We started with BSS green processing in there. It is now BSS blue, SoundWeb blue. In there, everything is digital. The interface to the broadcast, but the operators and the owners of the Rogers Center, the Rogers Communications, they're a broadcast and a communications company first. They get it, and probably this year we will finally get around to replacing those loudspeakers. But if a system is treated well, it's tested regularly. You can get a good long lifespan out of it. Electronics, amplifiers can last a long time, but electronics have shelf lives and best before dates. The power supplies, even the power of the chips. We were able to do so much more with that system with current generation of blue chips than we were ever able to do with those original 88 series green chips.
Yeah, and to expand on what Brock's saying here, I think this obviously highlights putting in a quality product first and having a good maintenance schedule for the life of the installation. And, other things that come up, especially for projects that we do in Europe, things like CE certification, TUV certification are critical when it comes to our electrically operated products. Because for certain integrators, especially like in Germany, if you don't have that long checklist of things that are associated with the electronics, they just don't want to touch it. They don't want to bother with the risk at all.
Right.
Well, no, because it comes back on them, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Brock, real quickly, and we'll get on to our last story here. How do you get that conversation? You said Rogers, obviously Rogers Communication, a big broadcaster in Canada, they get it, right? They get redundancy. Yeah. They get that.
Right.
Yeah. But let's take my backyard, my hometown in St. Louis. We have two venues. Technically, we have a third, but we don't have a football team anymore, so it doesn't matter. But we've got the Savvis Center and we have Busch Stadium. Neither one of them are owned by broadcast companies, right? So talk about either Flushing Meadows or another venue where you have to start that conversation and a little bit of education to explain to them, this is what a service contract is, this is what it does, and this is why it's important.
The people who operate venues of that nature all know what they need to do. The challenge often is whether they're relying on their in-house operational staff to do that, or whether they're hiring a third party who has, far greater depth of resources and experience to be able to do that. And it's it's a challenge. And some internal venues, they hire people whose strength is in operating, not in maintaining. And they hire some people who may want to need to be in control of their environment. So they'll push back about having an outside contractor in. The Air Canada Centre, where the Maple Leafs play this week, I think we replaced about 15 drivers and did in our annual sweep every driver in every cabinet and did our annual retune in anticipation of the World Cup of Hockey, which loads in next week. And it's not that the product was defective. It's just that the system is now a number of years old and certain things fail, but they have an annual regimen of testing. They trust us. The in-house people know that their jobs already entirely fill their days, and they need our assistance. And if something goes wrong, they really need our assistance. And as a result, we've had a phenomenal relationship with Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment that operates that venue, operates BMO Field, where the Toronto FC soccer team plays, where we just put in an entirely new sound system for them. It's a codependent trust thing. We're on their team. They give us the time and the funding to be able to take care of them well. And then, of course, if something goes wrong, it's our fault.
Yes, that's the other side of that, unfortunately. So
correct. No, but that's important. That's what we do for a living. And our best clients are always professionals who are the best equipped to understand that we're really experts and we're really good at what we do, and they really need us. It's amateurs, people that buy systems once every 10 years that are unable to differentiate between our capabilities and two bobs in a truck.
Agree. Well said, Brock.
Yes. Two bobs in a truck. Good Lord.
Two bobs in a truck.
There you go. All right. Last story here. InfoComm has started a new program where they're partnering with various colleges around the states. I'm not aware of any in Canada, but they may very well be, where they're offering their curriculum. The story that we're going to use is from AV Network, talking about Valencia College in Orlando. So what you've got is Valencia College specifically. They have a program for the AV event production specialist. This person, the person that goes through that program, is going to go through a number of InfoComm classes. When they walk out of it, they're going to be a fairly well-versed, and I would argue probably a little bit better than a normal green tech. Brock, first question to you: Is this something that InfoComm should be doing? Is this something that they should be involved with? Specifically talking about partnering with the colleges to try to get their curriculum into the universities.
Duh. Yes, I think it's I think it's fantastic. We talk about our recruiting issues. We talk about the next generation of AV technical people. We talk about creating broader interest in our industry and through awareness. NSCA has that wonderful Ignite program.
Yep.
That is carrying the message of audiovisual out to the schools, because people don't recognize this as a trade. They don't understand what we do. And as a result, our kids don't necessarily appreciate audiovisual as a viable career option.
Yep.
So having this curriculum available for colleges, and my understanding is that this is InfoComm's second kick at this can. They have another college they've already done it with in Florida. They provide that content for free. It's available to the students for free. And there are no losers in this equation. It's I think it's a great thing, and it's a great extension of InfoComm's capabilities and promotion of the industry.
Ren, Brock brought up a good point, and that's employees, right? The people that we get to bring into the industry. So I'll ask the question to you: where do we get, if not places like this and programs like this, where do we get the folks, the guys and girls that we want to come up through the ranks and take over one day? Where do we get the workers for the industry?
Yeah, I think it's a really tough question to answer in terms of, how does the industry really make this exciting? Because, AV unfortunately tends to be a hidden industry, and that's really unfortunate because all of us that are involved in AV are obviously very excited about it and love it. And we all have our own stories about how we got into the industry. I ended up in the industry by accident. I was 27 years old, and I had circumstances in Philadelphia where I needed to change jobs. So I came back home to see my parents, and Daylight came knocking about a month later. Then I ended up at Daylight. I never intended to be a part of Daylight, but since I've been part of the AV industry, I've loved it. And to the changing generational aspect of the industry, I do a lot of training for Daylight, and I go see a fair amount of dealers. I go to a lot of events, and it kind of hurts me sometimes that, when I'm teaching a class or when I'm in a group of people, 9 times out of 10, I'm the youngest one in the room, and I'm 35 years old. So anything and everything, especially this, offering college classes that gets people excited about AV, I'm for all the time, because I want to see 20-somethings. I want to see kids that are just coming into this world of technology with exciting ideas, fresh ideas, new perspectives on technology. So if this is a great first bridge of how to do that, I think kudos to InfoComm for doing it. And let's keep this rolling any way that we can, because the more fresh blood and young blood that we can get into the industry, it's going to be better for all of us, because relevancy is always the key word. I'm sure, Brock would agree to, a term like that. You have to stay relevant with your clients. You have to stay relevant with the world around you. And the more that we're able to be youthful as an industry, the better for all of us, especially those of us that are going to be in the industry for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the more interesting and a good icebreaker, if you're just meeting somebody, is to ask them how they got involved in the industry.
Absolutely.
You'll find everything from roadies to former rock stars to, if you ever meet Brock in person, ask him his, because it's even more interesting. So, all right, that's going to do it for us. Mr. McGinnis, thank you, sir, as always.
My pleasure.
How do people get a hold of you or Westbury?
Westbury's at westbury.com. I think I'm probably most visible on Twitter. My handle is the same as my name, Brock McGinnis. I'm brock.m at westbury.com, but generally I think they can just get a hold of me through you.
Yeah, there is that.
Because you seem to be able to track me down, when all the good guests are in New York for the weekend.
Yes, I did see that. We'll talk about IoT in a second. We're gonna our guys were at the InfoComm IoT yesterday and
very cool.
Shot a couple of videos and did some cool things. We're gonna be posting that on the site too. So.
Good, but thank you for having me again, Tim.
Absolutely, sir.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Ren, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Wasn't too terrible, was it?
No, it was great. Absolutely wonderful. If you need to get a hold of me, like Brock said, I am at Ren, RHEN, Taylor, Taylor, at milestone.com. You can find all of Daylight's products, obviously, on milestone.com or daylight.com. And I will give a plug to a couple events coming up. CEDIA in Texas, in Dallas next week.
Yep.
We'll have a presence there, obviously, showing a couple screens. And then EduCause in Anaheim in October.
Oh, very
so
good.
if you're looking to see Daylight on the road, we'll be there. For the Canadian crews up there north of the border, we're starting our Canadian Roadshow next week, the Eastern leg. So we'll be in Halifax, Quebec City, Montreal, Ottawa, and Toronto over the next 4 or 5 weeks.
I believe I have received an invitation from our great local representation here in Ontario.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Very good. Well, Ren mentioned it. We're going to CEDIA ourselves. Go by the website. You'll find top of the page there. You'll see a landing page, CEDIA section, the whole bit. That's where all of the videos will go. Everything that we do at CEDIA when we go by Daylight's booth, we'll put that there. So we land on Wednesday. We're having a tweet up on Thursday from 4 to 6 in the back beer garden. Our good friend Olivia from CEDIA tells me that there will be a mechanical bull at this. So we are providing the beer and libations. They're providing the bull. And what happens beyond that, I have no idea.
I have never found that there has been a shortage of bull on AVWeek.
In Texas? Yes, you're right. So, but yeah, we're heading there too. Programming note: I will be in Texas next week, so Mr. Tucker will be in this very chair. Our buddy Rich Fregosa and I will be coming to you from the show floor for about 4 or 5 minutes at the start, and then George will take it from there. So, but as for me and everybody here, go by the website. You don't have to follow me, but if you want to follow AVNation, it's AVNation TV on Twitter. But the website's where you can go. You can find out about all of our underwriters, the folks that help us make this happen, people like Milestone and Daylight. AVNation.tv, AVNation.tv. You will find this program, a host of others, and all sorts of really great audiovisual industry stuff. So thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. This has been AV Week.